A lot of people ask me, what exactly is the technique that I have used to calm my nervous system and overcome my own symptoms of childhood PTSD? And if you've watched my videos, you know it's what I call the daily practice. It's a very specific writing technique followed by a very simple meditation, and I do it twice a day. And I talk about it all the time. I have a free course. You can learn about it in my book, Re-Regulated, or you can get a very simple download that I'm going to attach down below in the description section. I'll put a link to it. And you can follow along with us on a recorded daily practice call. Now, we offer these every week at Crappy Childhood Fairy. They're free. They're available to anybody who's learned the techniques and who wants to join. Now, I know some of you, the time of day doesn't work out, or you just want to see what it's like before you give it a try, and that is totally fine. So this is my introduction to you to a recorded daily practice Zoom call so you can see what it's like. So here's what we do on the calls. We write for 15 minutes our fears and resentments, the very specific technique. Now, because watching us write on Zoom doesn't make the greatest video, I'm going to go ahead and fade out for that. You can pause your video and test the writing technique and then come back. Then I'll introduce the meditation, which is 20 minutes long. And again, I'm just going to fade to black and fade back in when that comes so that you can pause it and do your meditation and then come back for a big, long session of questions with me. I take questions from the audience on this call about how to do the daily practice. So not only will you learn more about how to do it on this call, but you'll find out what it's like in our community when we're interacting. And I think you might be very drawn to it. And if you like it, I really encourage you to come on and sign up for the free course and come onto a call with us. We have them every week. 2 of them are with me, 2 are with other team members, and you'll be able to see the whole schedule. We'll send you email prompts. We do that with anybody who's taken the free course. It's very simple. So are you ready to start? Let's watch the recording. Today we have people from all over the world, and we've come together to write our fears and resentments and then to meditate, and I'll be answering questions afterwards. And I will stay on for extra time afterwards to answer as many questions as possible. So the people on this call have been advised that it's recorded, and they have chosen for themselves whether to be on camera or have their names visible. So rest assured, viewers, everybody's safe. We're going to begin by writing our fears and resentments now. And some people here have been doing this a long time, and some are very new to it. So we've given out a handout. And if you're watching the recording of this, we'll make that handout available to you too, so that you can get a quick guide. But we encourage everyone to perhaps take the free course, the daily practice, and learn this in detail. A lot of questions that come up are answered nicely in videos in the free course or in my book, Re-Regulated, over there. It's all in writing, so you can do that. So let's write our fears and resentments. You'll be taking out your paper. We're going to spend 15 minutes. If you're done early, that's okay. You can go ahead and drop into meditation then if you like, or skip ahead in the video. And we're going to use the specific format that's part of the daily practice. I'm going to set my timer, and I'll come back in about 13 minutes to give you a heads up that we're wrapping up soon, because the one thing that's most important about this writing process is to remember that this is leading up to the release statement, aka the prayer, aka the sign-off. We ask for this to be removed, but every line that we're writing in the daily practice is our expression of willingness to have it removed. That's entirely the spirit that we're doing this. I have fear that I'm just no good. Fear, whatever it is for you. So please follow along with the format. Now we're going to shift gears and begin meditating. And if you're an established meditator and you meditate all the time anyway, you'll have no problem. You can just do the meditation you usually do. What we're looking for is a rest. So if you meditate sometimes and you find it very hard, don't do a hard kind of meditation, because in the daily practice, our goal is rest. We're not trying to empty our mind necessarily. It's good, sometimes there's some quieting down that happens, and that's desirable, but there's no beating ourselves up or going, oh no, I'm having thoughts. We're bound to have thoughts. So if there's no need to do that kind of meditation, unless it's your regular practice, there's no need to focus on your breath or your posture or to observe your thoughts or some of the things that are important for other forms of meditation. So I encourage you, if that's your normal way and you always do it and that feels good to you, do that. But if you just need a way to use today, try this. We just call it super simple meditation. And what we do is we close our eyes, we sit in a comfortable position. Anything except lying down is okay. And lying down is okay if you're very sick or in the hospital or injured right now. It's okay. But for most of us, lying down would encourage sleep. And even if you fall asleep, it's okay, but we don't encourage sleep. So we sit up in a comfortable position. Some of us like to put our feet up. Some of us like to hug a pillow on our tummies while we meditate. Some of us like to have a blanket. There will be noises around you, and it's good to know how to meditate even though the daily noises of life are around you. But sometimes if a kid runs in the room and needs your attention, that's okay. Pause your meditation, deal with what's needed, or delivery at the door, deal with what's needed, and then sit back down. And we'll tell you when the 20 minutes is up. So we're going to be doing this for 20 minutes. If you like to have an anchor word, which is also known as a mantra, you can do that. And I like to use words that are very neutral, that aren't big commands. Now, if you're religious, you could use a holy name, but that would probably be, or a word, but a big long passage of scripture might be a little complicated for resting. If you are in a tradition of meditation where you use a Sanskrit word, that's fine. We're looking for something that isn't a big verb, like save the world or be an amazing person or something like that. It's the opposite of rest. We're looking for a restful word. So if you just want a casual word, you could use okay or this, or my new favorite mantra is bleh. I'm always trying to explain what's the mantra. It's just something where you remind yourself that you're meditating. Bleh, bleh. And you're saying it silently to yourself at intervals, I don't know, a few seconds apart, 10 seconds apart. You might forget your mantra. That's okay. That's how it rolls. But it's just a little bit of a reminder, oh, I'm trying to meditate right now. Most of us who have trauma, our minds they get very busy sometimes when it's quiet. So don't worry about it if that happens. Just try to remember, okay, I'm resting my mind right now. Take a rest. Rest is very, very therapeutic. You'll see. So I'm going to set my timer for 20 minutes now. I'll let you know when it's up, and then we'll have the Q&A period. All right. I'm going to be answering questions that you may have about the daily practice. And my goal today is to help everybody understand it a little better, get a little better at it, understand the nuance of it. It's very nuanced. If it were easy to teach, we wouldn't have calls every week for years and years. And you learn it in layers, I think. So some of the questions you'll find answered in the book, Re-Regulated, which is over my shoulder here, or in the free daily practice course, which you can access anytime and learn the techniques. And there's a Q&A, an FAQ section in that course where you can often find answers to the common questions. But I'll be taking your questions, and here's how you can help me. If you would, please phrase your question as a question. Start with a sentence with a question mark. We always are tempted to tell the story first and then the question, but if you would, tell me the question, and so that I can answer as many questions as possible. That helps us really focus our discussion. And sometimes I'll answer your question and a little bit extra too, because I have something to teach that's helpful, I think, for people who are new to the daily practice. And in order to raise your hand, just a reminder, I know Frida's been telling you, you can hit the react button on your Zoom panel and you'll find there the little hand icon, and that will put you in the queue to ask a question. And if you're not sure you want to ask a question, go ahead and raise your hand. You can always take it down later. I'll be taking the questions in the order that people raise their hands. So you'll have time to change your mind if you want to. And again, if you would like to protect your anonymity here, you can turn off your camera if you wish. We are seeing the top 25, just 25 images out of 240 right now. But you can turn your camera off even if you're asking a question, and you can also change your username that appears. This will be recorded and it will be shared on the Crappy Childhood Fairy website and perhaps on social media and YouTube. We want to make it very, very accessible to people who want to learn this, but either can't deal with coming to the call or are not able to because of their schedule. All right, here we go. So I'm going to begin with questions. And Deborah, you are first. You can unmute.
Yeah, hi, thank you. I first would like to thank you for this work and the work that you do because ever since I found it, it's just been so enlightening and so helpful to me to realize that the trauma that I experienced as a child, I can help remedy. But
Thank
my question, it's a little vague. Um, I'm struggling with writing down the negative thoughts. I'm rather literal, and I've in all my studies in my spiritual work all these years, one of the things that's kind of been um, in my face a lot is that if you're focusing on negative, um, then that's what you generate. So I understand that there's a nuance with writing it down and then releasing it, but I'm struggling a little bit with writing it down because sometimes when I write it, I think, no, no, I can't say that. I shouldn't say that because that's going to cause it to happen more.
you.
Does that make sense?
Uh-huh. Yeah. Some people believe that. That's definitely like the line of thought of some approaches. But it's not what we're doing here. And I would just say, are you thinking it?
Obviously, since I'm
So
writing it
it's
down.
here. It's too
Yeah.
late, isn't it?
Yeah. But
It is.
doesn't writing it reinforce or
Do I
not?
look like somebody who's been reinforcing negativity for 31 years when you hear my story?
Good point. Good
Yeah,
point.
I'm releasing it. And I think one of the things, there's a couple of things that people have bring differences to this. One, if you were conditioned to believe or you sincerely believe that you mustn't ever mention the fearful, resentful thoughts you're thinking. And so for a variety of reasons, people may believe that. And if you really believe that, don't do the daily practice, right? Don't do this. But here, we are naming what that troubling thought or feeling is. We're naming it. We're not digging
Hmm.
around for stuff that's not already on our minds.
Hmm.
But to really, like, let's just say that I don't know, there's negativity out there and you don't want it in your mind. If you're thinking it, it's too late. You're thinking it now. So
Mm.
we're naming it to get it out of our minds and onto the paper. And
Okay.
I often use the analogy of back in the days when somebody told you their phone number and you didn't just put it in each other's phones. And you'd say, what's your number? And they'd tell you, and you didn't have paper and you didn't have a pen, and you just sit there and have to like recite it to yourself 30 times until you could get a pen. That's what we're doing. We're just like, blah, 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 blah. I wake up in the morning and I'm just like fretting about things. So I sit
Yeah.
up, I get my paper, and I go, I have fear. I have too much to do. Fear I shouldn't have slept so late. Fear I never get enough sleep. So right away, whatever's troubling my mind is going onto the paper. What good is it for me to just go on and beat the dead horse if I didn't get enough sleep? It's like the day has started. Here we are. We have what we have. And so we get it on paper. We're making the best of our situation despite our troubling thoughts. For me, I'd say 80% of my troubling thoughts are not anything I really need to worry about. So
Hmm.
that's good. I get those released. And then when I have less of that on my mind, the 20%-ish on my mind that I probably do need to worry about, it's like, oh no, I forgot to send that insurance thing that they want. That was something that popped into my mind when I woke up today. Oh, I was supposed to send that. And so good, it popped into my mind. And my mind is like addled with 1,000 stressful thoughts, I don't remember stuff like the insurance form. I drop the ball all the time. That's
Mm.
a lot of how the trauma manifests for me is just like just overwhelmed with junk in my head and also reactions to things when I'm in the moment with people. So it's really good to have a way to just name it and get it on paper.
Yeah.
We're letting go of our hold on it, and it doesn't mean anything except that we're letting go of our hold. Now, I encourage people, you have to work within what you really think is true, what you really believe about reality. So do that. And if you can possibly manage to accept that naming it and putting it on paper, and then we write this sign off that I want this removed,
Yes. And
then
that does make a difference for
yeah,
me.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I have noticed that as I've done this more and more, the one particular item that I've really been focusing on has lessened the feeling of it or the discomfort of it has diminished
Hmm.
somewhat. So I can tell in that regard that with doing the release and
Hmm.
then the meditation, that does seem to help. So I think I just need to get my head around the fact that I'm just jotting these down. I'm not reinforcing them.
You're actually
I'm
releasing them. You're
grabbing them.
releasing them as you write. Your entire
Oh, okay.
intent, from the
That's a
moment
good
that
thing.
pen touches paper, you're like, take it. Here it is. This is the trouble. This is the trouble
Oh, that's
here.
a good way to look
This
at
is
it.
it.
Thank
It's
you.
not just like, oh, this thing we write at the end seems to help. It's like you are the sovereign queen of your consciousness here. And you're like, I am noting that I have these troubling thoughts and I don't want them. So here goes my pen. I have here, but
Um,
you're basically confessing this is what I've got. And people come to this from all types and levels of belief that there is any kind of a higher power or healing power who
mhm,
will take this from us. But I think I'm a God person myself. I find
me
it so
too.
helpful to just like, I just go with it. I'm just like, God, take it from me. I don't want it. And I've just had so much relief from it over the years. I don't even have any doubt in my mind that writing it and asking for it to be removed is good and helpful and works. But when you're
Yeah.
starting out, it's a grand experiment, isn't it? Like, is this going to matter and what you can go by? I don't think nobody should put God on the page if that's not their belief. You put the strongest thing that you believe in. And for people who really think that the strongest thing they've got is themselves, I'm a little sad about that. That's like such a helpless position. But if that's all you've got, then release it.
Yeah. No.
But personally, I am no good at releasing. I'm like a little bulldog. I'm like, I'm not releasing that. I was wrong. They were awful to me. How could I possibly be happy today? You know, like my mind is so convinced of this. And so I just sort of always encourage people, just go to the strongest thing you can imagine of a power that heals you, reminding everyone. If you've ever skinned your knee, did your knee heal? Did you know how to
Um,
heal knees? You did not. And yet there's a healing force that
yeah,
works for your
I
benefit.
get that. And that does help. But
Yeah.
your comment about releasing it as I'm writing, that's really key for me. That really
Yeah.
helps.
That's the
Yeah.
entire intent of it. So I think sometimes people who are new to it can get a little lost in the sort of the litany, the rant of it
Mhm.
all. And another
Yeah.
thing, and this, and oh, by the way, and this. And I mean, that's okay that that happens as long as we're doing it in the spirit of, I'm only sitting down to write because I intend to be free of this. I don't want it anymore. And
Excellent.
and sometimes we're tempted to hold on to it because, well, honestly, because a lot of us, the only boundary we ever had was anger,
Yeah.
and the only safety we ever had was constant anxiety. If
Hmm.
everything's a danger, maybe you can avoid it. And so we're starting to take this leap of faith that if we can name these things and release them, we're going to come through it safely, that we're going to be free to set boundaries.
Yeah.
It's just a piece of paper.
The release really does make a difference.
Oh yeah.
That was a key part that I kind of missed at first.
Yeah.
Um, and because I didn't see that particular
Yeah.
place in the book, but now that
Yeah.
I have that and knowing now that I can just visualize releasing as I'm writing, that makes a lot more sense for me.
Yeah, or don't visualize anything, just trust that it is released. You don't have
Yeah.
to work that hard. You'll always find the hardest thing I find for my students to accept is that it's easier than they think. You
Mm,
don't have to visualize anything. Just name the fears and resentments, and your whole intent is to get free of it. And you don't have to sit there and like work overtime to try to see it properly or make it go. It shall be done.
from a
It's as
perfectionist
natural as
standpoint.
can be. Yeah, it's just as
Yeah.
naturally as can be. Well, thank you.
Excellent. That's
Great
very
question.
helpful. Thanks so much.
Thanks. All right, HC is next. You can unmute HC.
Hi. Yes, I started your meditation practice on the daily practice on Saturday. So this is I believe, my third day or so. And
Yay. That's wonderful.
thank you. And my question is, when I'm doing the daily practice, sometimes my emotions are triggered. Uh, maybe anxiousness, and sometimes maybe even tears are triggered. Is this common for the daily writing and meditation?
It is common. and it's okay. And so first, I just want to say good cleansing tears are nature's greatest re-regulating thing, you know. Good cleansing tears when you're just sort of facing the pain and sitting with that quietly and putting it on paper is a beautiful act of expressing it. It needs to be expressed. And so we're facing what's painful in a safe way. And then meditating sometimes, um, tears are coming too. So that's all fine. And then feeling anxious, I don't know about you, but that's almost my default state. So sometimes I'm feeling anxious. If I've got a lot on my mind when I'm trying to meditate, it might be time to write a little more. But if writing or meditating feels completely upsetting, then maybe you just slow down or ask yourself, is this really the best thing for me right now? I would say there are some people, well, I know meditation, for example, for people who are still getting very dissociated when they don't want to be, then there's no need to meditate. That can make people a little vulnerable to dissociation, as I understand it. So it's okay. If anything doesn't feel good, you don't need to do it. If anything doesn't feel right for you, you don't need to do it. But I'm teaching the techniques and why we do them and how we do them. And generally speaking, emotion is fine. Some of us have been very emotionally repressed. Others of us have been emotionally dysregulated in the outward way, where we're just like we can't stop crying. And some of this just can't be helped sometimes. In the daily practice, if you find it helpful, you'll probably find that doing it regularly helps you come a little bit to center on that, where you're feeling your feelings in right proportion and they're not just getting the better of you and sabotaging you when you're trying to give a speech or, read a book to a child or something. You don't want to end up kind of just like losing it, right? That's sometimes when people are like, aren't all feelings good? And I'm like, yes, if you don't have what I have. Sometimes they're just like, kind of a problem in their own right. And they're probably my feelings can get exaggerated because of nervous system dysregulation, I think. And, uh, and that's when they can be, troublesome. But otherwise, of course, we want full access to all of our emotions. Trauma
And
is sad. Can I just say, HC, the thing that gave us this is freaking sad. And it's appropriate to cry sometimes.
and so the more I do this, the better I will become. Is that what happens?
I guess time will tell, but for many of us, yes, that it starts to feel more natural and just more kind of, okay. I remember once I had all this surgery. I couldn't eat food for like 2 weeks. And then when I ate food, it made me sick. And now I just do fine with food. It's something like that. Food and me were like that. It was very, sometimes it's a little rocky getting started. But again, I just want to caution people, if you're freaking out, if it's causing anxiety attacks, don't push it. Don't push it. And, if you're somebody who's like in a very vulnerable place or you're in the care of a professional, talk to them about it. And a lot of people learned about the daily practice from their therapists. Some of them, you might be doing the daily practice and you might have a therapist who feels really worried about it or whatever, but you get to decide. You get to decide what's helpful to you and follow along what serves you. And unless you're in such a difficult state that you're not really in a good place to make decisions for yourself, I just encourage you to take that sovereignty over your life and make your decisions like this helps me, I'm doing it, or this doesn't help me, I'm not doing it. People worry about being disciplined enough with the daily practice. And it really is like if it's good with you, if it helps you, I really encourage you to do it twice a day. It does something that's more than twice as valuable as doing it once a day. It kind of helps change your paradigm and kind of in a literal sense, in a material sense, but also kind of in a spiritual sense, where you just start to trust, like it's okay. I'm really moving this stuff through now. This stuff is really moving, and you start to feel this sense of. I often liken it to a river. It's like a cozy river, but it feels terrifying to get in a river that has a current. Like, where is this going? I don't trust it. I gotta hold on. And then you start finding that you're safe. You can let the water carry you where it's going, and you don't always know where it's going, but it's just like it's going in the direction of better and better. That's kind of the idea. But you have to stay sovereign to make the decision for yourself. I have slowed down. I've quit the daily practice before, And never because it was harmful for me. I actually was scared it was harmful. It never was, but one thing that it did for me is it created a real difference between me and some of the people I used to hang around with or date. And it creates disharmony because I'm getting free of all this stuff and I'm hanging out with people who like really believe in all their fears and resentments and want them and want to talk about them and I'm starting to go in another direction, and it's very seductive to sort of let go of your daily practice where you're getting free and come back so you don't lose these people who just want to like process feelings all night. I don't mean to make fun of it. That's the downside of it. But when I've ever quit, it was usually to fit in with people who were not in this process of change like I was. And I didn't want to lose them. And then I lost them anyway. And then I was really sad. So I came back to the daily practice. So when you start changing and you start to have less of, I don't know, here's an example from my life. So my girlfriends, whenever one of us got dumped by a guy, we'd go, well, that's because men suck and they're pigs and they don't get you and you're just too intelligent. And we were collectively not in a place where we could ever really look at our part in that, whatever it might have been. And as I became somebody who was more free of my fear and resentment and could be a lot more curious and insightful about like, well, one thing that I did there was, I was dating somebody I didn't really like, actually, or I was trying to force the relationship, or I was being very combative with this person. There's just insight that I could get finally. And it wasn't helpful for me to go back to the group of friends that were just like, oh, yeah, that guy, he wasn't good enough for you. I wasn't really interested in that information anymore. I was trying to change. I was trying to change so that things could be better for me. So that's the biggest reason I've ever had to put my foot on the brakes. But you can put your foot on the brakes simply by don't write and meditate and then see what happens. Just see how that is. Is it helpful? Like it's so great sometimes when you have a regular practice. It's like exercising. It's just like you don't go for a day and you're like, this is great. But you don't go for a year and it doesn't feel great. So that's my experience.
Thank you. I think what it is I'm not used to expressing my feelings, and I wasn't
Yes.
allowed to express my feelings.
Yes.
I think that is that's very helpful. So thank you.
Yeah. You think of that. What's that story? Is it the little Dutch boy with his finger on the dam? There's like a little hole, got his finger in it, and the dam's like with all this water. But the daily practice, we're never taking on the whole reservoir. We're just taking on what's up right now. What's up right now. So we never are going to drown. We can stop, we can slow down, we can do a little more, a little less. We're just taking on what's on the top surface. And you know what sometimes is on the top surface? I need a nap. And then you meditate and you're like, "Zzz," and you're good. Like, what could be more re-regulating than a nap? So it's a very natural thing to face what's up. And then if you have 30 bad things that happen to you that you could dig out, don't dig them out right now. Just only if they're on your mind. They'll come up eventually if you do this every day. You'll get to all of it. You don't have to rush it. You don't have to be thorough. You don't have to be scientific. You don't have to do a comprehensive list. Sometimes I like to do that, but it's not the daily practice to do so. We just take it as it comes. It's a little more sustainable that way, I think. And then don't forget to meditate, everyone, because if you're writing, I've never seen anybody write every day and last longer than a month without also meditating. After a while, you really got to meditate. There's something about it that's fatiguing, and your mind has to shut it down. This is not scientific evidence. It's anecdotal from years of working with other people. Like to make it last, you're going to need the meditation. It doesn't feel like it's so exhausting, but for some reason it is. It's fatiguing you in a way that you have to shut it down if you can't rest your mind afterwards. Thank you, HC.
You're welcome.
All right, Lou is next. Hello, Lou. You can unmute.
Hi, Anna.
Hi.
Hello, everyone. My question is there a list of words, feeling words that can be used when doing the DP? And I can put that question in a context that happened to be in yesterday's DP class. Is that okay?
You can, but the answer is a categorical no way.
Okay.
Change
What,
what you want to ask.
okay, I'm sorry. Okay, so what happened in yesterday's class
Yeah.
was I was reflected a word control was coming up for me, and I had no awareness that I felt
Mm.
control. So it was like, oh, that's another word to do the DP on. So,
Well, I'm not sure what you mean by that, but if you had the thought, I wasn't aware I was so controlled, this is how you write it. I have fear. I didn't know I was so controlled. That's all.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All righty. Thank you.
Yeah. Sometimes people are like, but fear and resentment, that's so narrow. It's like, what about all the other feelings and observations? It's like, yes, you can cram them in there under the buckets of fear and resentment, but we're not trying to release control. We're not trying to release sadness. We're not trying, we keep it really focused on two simple buckets, and simple is your friend in this. Because it could otherwise get so complicated. So, without a doubt, like your experience of, oh, control, it really came into your imagination. That's wonderful to write about, but you just throw it in that grammatical bucket of, I have fear, this thing that I'm thinking. And some people are like, but that doesn't sound like fear. And it's like, you're right, but we do it anyway. Nothing is really a fear, but fear means anything we're sort of troubled, anxious, just don't know what. It's something other than perfect harmony and peace. And then resentment is that kind of thing, but with anger tinge on it, anger or blame. So those are the simple buckets that we're working with. And you can
Okay.
end up, it's funny, like there's like a million colors, right, of our experience. And they become vivid. They become, it's much more beautiful and complicated in a good way than you realized. And all of that becomes evident with less fear and resentment. And there's some things that are obviously fear and resentment, and some stuff where you're like, oh gosh, this is just like a device. Anna told me to just shove it in there. And that's okay because you're just clearing away. Some of it maybe doesn't even need to be removed, and you trust the process. It's okay. It doesn't need, maybe it doesn't, maybe it does. Maybe this is serious, maybe it's foolish. We put no value hierarchy on our thoughts and feelings here. We just get them on paper and we release them and trust that what's left afterwards is going to be what matters.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, sure thing. I'm going to go to Jennifer. Jennifer, you can unmute.
Hi, good
Hello.
afternoon.
Hi.
I have a quick question. You tell us when it's time to meditate, you say we should not rest our heads back against something, we should not lean back. What's
Uh-huh.
the reason for that?
Well, but just because my meditation teacher taught me that, like, get as comfortable as you like, but if the back of your head is resting on something, it triggers sleep. And
Okay,
we don't want to encourage sleep, but many of the time I meditate and my head is like, whoa. And I fall asleep. And it's okay to fall asleep, but we're not trying to, this is something a little different than trying to sleep. If that makes
okay.
sense. Yeah.
Understood. So if I don't fall asleep, it's okay that I lean back? Because it's kind of uncomfortable for me at times to just sit straight with my eyes closed. I was just wondering if I don't fall asleep, it's okay to lean back.
Well, you
Just to
really
rest
can
my
do
head on the back
whatever
of the
works for
chair,
you. You can do
actually.
whatever works for you, but I try to teach people sort of a best practice, which is keep your head
Okay,
upright. But I've had
okay,
neck injuries where I absolutely support my head. Yeah. Yeah. And then
okay.
it gets
Thank you.
better. One of these days, I feel like I want to do a promo for this pillow I bought. It was $270, but it was the best money I ever spent. I had neck pain all the time, and it's this pillow that it's got this kind of what you put your neck on. It's got this steep slope and then a shallow slope, and it gives you this little neck traction, and it's just the best. Totally an aside there. Oh gosh, we're recording today. I shouldn't even bother with little stories, but I love this
Thank you
pillow.
very
My neck feels
much.
good again. All right, Karen, you're next.
Hi, Anna.
Hi.
My question is, can I write, I have fear that I have resentment? I haven't come across this yet until today.
Mhm.
I've been doing it for a few months, but resentment was something, again, that I wasn't allowed to have in my family of origin. And so this came up for me today.
Sure, you can write that, but just write it once. It's not like the form or anything, but you can say you have fear about anything. Fear I have to do the daily practice now. So whatever's actually there and then the programming that you had that it's not okay. That's good stuff to get on the paper whenever it's up for you. fear if I write this, I'm just going to get in trouble or whatever the fear is. But here's something nice to know about resentment. It's really just like a big tangle of fear. So we do treat it separately because there's this extra thing going on where we're locating the problem in the control. I know I don't want to psychologize it that much, but I'll tell you about a common scenario is when I'm resentful at somebody, I'm blaming them for a lot of stuff, and my blame is like it's got this force field around it that I can't really see straight. The person I'm most like the people we're most likely to resent are those closest to us. So I have a husband, and most of the time I just love him, and he makes life nice, and sometimes I'm just so resentful at him. I'm just so resentful. I'll give you a petty thing today. We have this coffee thing. It's a Keurig where it has refillable stainless steel little coffee cups, right? And we just got this at Christmas and we love it. And whenever I make a coffee, I make sure we have two of those little stainless steel ones, and I make sure there's one clean for him, but he doesn't always make sure there's one clean for me. And I can really spin out over this. And on my mind, will just, especially because I get the coffee before I've written, I go upstairs and then start writing again. And so I get my cup of coffee. I'm like, he made himself a coffee and he just left me with two dirty cups. And then I go back to my paper. I'm just like, I'm resentful at him because I have fear. He's selfish, fear he doesn't care, fear I have to do everything around here. That is always like, I wake up like that every day and then I get the fear out. But the little thing about the cup, like, if you think about it, if I had to clean out that cup every time, it wouldn't be the end of the world. And it's a little thing. So a few times I've said, hey, I use my nicest little nice girl voice. Would you mind just like always making sure the next one is clean for me? And he goes, oh, yeah, sure. And then he forgets. The problems I have, I tell you, the problems I have. I have to dump out the wet coffee. I have to rinse it all by myself again. So anyway, anybody who has other people in your life, you know how it is. Like you win some, you lose some. And so I recently wrote about it enough times and complained about it enough times that I just sort of gave up. And I was just like, yeah, I'm pretty much going to have to like clean this thing, 9 out of 10 times to have a cup of coffee, whatever. And I don't care. And then I've saved my battles for when I just really need to stand up for myself. And so the resentment can be so petty. So I don't have fear, I have resentment. It's like, there it is. I blame him. But it's interesting how the little matter of the little Keurig cup um, can turn my whole world into a great big like victim story, about how nobody cares about me at all. Because there's a whole like residue of my childhood there that's just kind of there, ready to activate because I latched on to some little problem of today that reinforces that for me. So the paper is always how I unreinforce it. I just keep releasing it and then pick my battles and pick my battles. The latest battle is, why are there 30 dirty socks in the hall closet where we hang our coats? Who did that? Who did that? No one will admit it. I'm so resentful. Like all the coats smell like feet now, and they don't smell like my feet, everyone, like and then, I have things that appear more significant than that to me, but the principle is the same. I can't really do my best when I'm, just kind of stuck under this idea that nobody cares, because the hall closet is another idea like that nobody cares, and I never get fairness, and I have to do everything around here. And you heard about the bacon I found in the silverware drawer? It was like 3 months old. I'm like, what is in here? Damn it, you people! I do have to do everything. So anyway, and then other times I've done my daily practice and I'm just so grateful I have a family. My God, I thought I never would. I was just like alone in the world so much of my life, and now I have people around and all the ups and downs that go with that. So I'm much happier when I'm in that state of gratitude about things. But with the daily practice, I don't have to force it. I don't have to force it. I don't have to I have made gratitude lists before, and I think they're a good thing to do sometimes, but I don't have to anymore because when I don't have the fear and resentment, when I've done a good written, fear and resentment and then meditated, it just bubbles up. I just find myself feeling grateful much of the time, not every time. I have bad days. I have bad hours. And another thing is I don't have to accept things. There's that idea. And when I was in 12-step recovery for the families of alcoholics, there was this idea a lot of like, we learn acceptance. And I would really struggle with that. It's like, but I don't want to accept shit. And my friend, she said, the one who showed me the daily practice, she said, oh, you don't have to accept shit. And I love that phrase. If you forgive my French, sorry, French people. If you forgive my cursing, it has that double entendre of like, you don't have to accept shit. You don't have to accept jack shit. You don't have to accept anything. You don't have to. It comes naturally, though, an easy acceptance of reality as it is, that there are dirty socks in the coat closet, and I'll take them out, and there's bacon in the silverware drawer, and there's coffee in the Keurig cup. It's like, all right, I accept these. This is my life. This is the conditions of my day, and also I have food and a roof, and this lovely man in there. He's working. He's watching all these videos to learn how to improve some stuff about the crappy childhood fairy business end of things. I'm like, oh yeah, so happy about that. And we have some friends visiting, and so I'm not so bogged down. I hated that about the past for me, as I thought that it was really happening. I thought everything was bad, but not everything was bad. And I started to clean up the mess from stuff that wasn't working for me, and especially the parts where I had some role to play in it. I learned to love discovering that. And coming out of the daily practice was often when I could see it. Because when I'm full of fear,
Okay.
when you have trauma, you know how it's a existential threat? It feels like you'll die sometimes if someone criticizes you. So now I'm a little better at that, where it doesn't kill me, and I can listen to it on my front porch, my figurative front porch. I don't take it inside. I just, like, somebody has a criticism and I listen to it, like in the YouTube comments. I listen to that criticism and I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm a stupid idiot. All right, I think I'll leave that on the front porch and go and or I can sometimes really learn something. And my son told me something the other day, and he said, "You're very confusing." And then he was upset with me, so he said, "And everyone knows it. You think you made yourself clear what you want everybody to do, but it's not clear, and nobody knows what to do, and they feel frustrated and they think you're going to be mad at them." And I heard it, my eyes got big, and I was like, "I hear you. You're right. I get it. Okay, thank you." I'll try to be clearer. And so that these are the little blessings of life that make all the difference on whether you can have people in your life or not. Can you tell the difference between somebody just lashing out at you and somebody telling you something that would be good for you to take in and consider? Like, I never had that before. And that's what the daily practice has helped me with, because when something upsets me, and I did have to write about things my son and I talked about in that conversation. I did have to write about it. And I was resentful at him too about some other stuff, and we talked about it. But because I can write about it, I can take that golden, the thing that's left, the wheat, that the wheat and the chaff we talk about in here sometimes. The chaff is the part of the wheat plant that we don't eat. The wheat is the part we do eat, if you can eat wheat. But you know what I mean. And so, that you thresh the wheat to, start getting rid of all the chaff. You don't eat the chaff and you don't put it in the bread. It's nasty. You don't want it. It's not nutritious. And that's what we're doing here. We're getting rid of the chaff. We're saving the wheat, but we don't even know the wheat from the chaff when we're just so overwhelmed with trauma experiences. It's too overwhelming. Can't think straight. More information's coming in. And did you know that literally, I learned this in my neurobiology of trauma course a year ago. Those having traumatic experiences like abuse and neglect in childhood actually can impair your brain's ability to process, to move through the cycle of live experience that calls for adrenaline and cortisol to cope with it, to memory that's not all charged, that's processing, that we actually have an injury to that ability. It's impaired. And so sometimes it needs a little boost. And I was like, that's why this is so helpful for me. When I can name my fears and resentments, the stuff that charges up with adrenaline and cortisol for me, when I can name it and ask for it to be removed, it helps me to process it. So I think of sometimes my mind and nervous system as a rusty old factory. It's a little slow, some of the wheels are jammed and there's this conveyor belt of my experiences, and it's like, You know? I'm like, go daily practice. She goes, you got it. There you go. I'm just not very good at it all the time. But I've noticed from doing the daily practice for a long time, I'm better at it. But still, there's an impairment. I can tell. I can just tell. There's an impairment. And that's so it goes. Those, some injuries are like an amputation, some are a scrape, some can never heal and we need a workaround, and some will heal up just fine without you having to do anything about it. So we learn to tell the difference and we learn to have workarounds, and then we can write our resentment that we have to have a workaround. But sometimes we do. Some rules, some guidelines. Kleenex everywhere I go in case I cry. Paper everywhere I go. This is one of these, by the way. You can get these very cheap in bulk. This size fits in your purse. And then there's even littler ones if you prefer to keep it in a rear pocket or something, those little ones, little spiral notebooks. So you always have something to write on. And then in the spirals, you can fit the right size pen or pencil, and you've always got it. And that's that's like my flak jacket. I could go anywhere, just about. Well, thank you for that.
Great, thank you.
All right, that was Karen. And now it's Cindy. Hello, Cindy. I've had the pleasure of meeting Cindy in person before. Hi.
Hi, Anna. Can
Hi.
can you hear me?
Yeah.
Great. Okay, good. All right. So I wrote down what I want to say so that I don't get off track. So I'll lead with my question. And yes, part of what I was going to say was I had the pleasure of meeting you in person as well.
Yeah.
So that
About a
was
year
part
ago.
of what I wrote down. So yes, so thank you for acknowledging that and remembering me. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I have a great picture of you and I from the retreat last year. And every time I look at it, I just smile. We both are like big smiles, and it was just we had just come out of one of your really great sessions. Anyway,
Yeah.
okay, my question is how long have you ever been in a dysregulated state? Months, years, days, and then I'll continue with what I was going to say. For me, I didn't realize how dysregulated I had gotten with a 3.5-year relationship with my now ex until the very traumatic way he had ended the relationship. And I didn't know that I was in this constant state of dysregulation for almost 3.5 years of that relationship until the very traumatic way that he ended it. And then it brought everything up full center front, the trauma. And I was like, whoa, because I didn't even have the words about dysregulation, re-regulation, childhood PTSD. So a year later, I can honestly say I can finally feel my nervous system calming down and returning back to normal. Okay. It literally this month marks a year from all that sort of trauma for me, and this year anniversary. And it was Easter of this year. So, and I'm just so grateful that I found you when I did, because I didn't, like I said, I didn't have the words for dysregulation, regulated, or even childhood PTSD, even though these thoughts and feelings swirled around my head like for years and years. And then I kind of went down this Anna rabbit hole, like when I was in this, like, again, early trauma, and I would just be listening to you and your videos and your YouTube videos, like sometimes 3, 4, 5 times a day, and doing the daily practice. And so, and I finally, again, like got this, like, you can just take a big exhale, right? And the last part was, coming to your in-person retreat last May in Sonoma was, in addition to the videos and the daily practice, it was instrumental to my healing journey. And for that, I'll be eternally grateful.
Thank you. Well, I think I'm like you. When I'm dysregulated, it makes it harder to form memories or keep track of time. So there's this funny way that when you think, how long was I dysregulated? I don't even know. It's so fuzzy. It's like a fuzzy blob, but it's also a matter of degrees, isn't it? And every once in a while, you have a really clear day or a clear hour, and you're like, ah, this is what it's like. I can see clearly now. That's such a good song, isn't it? I can see clearly. That's like our song. Yeah, that's a good thing. So it's like we're making progress as we can, but I don't think the dysregulation is like a full 100% or 0% thing. It's a little going on all the time. And some days I'll have a poor focus or something, or I feel tired, but there's no explanation. Things are a little off. And a lot dysregulation is also, we can't feel most of it. Dysregulation is when a child goes into puberty 2 years too early because she's been through too much. That's dysregulation of her endocrine system, and it's part of the trauma. There's so many ways that it manifests. So I'm sort of agnostic and open-minded about what is dysregulation and what is not. And then I savor the experience of feeling like my awareness and my body are kind of, unified in that moment. And I feel myself in the presence of the space that I'm in and not time traveling or spaced out. It's kind of a good feeling. But I'm not one of those people who's like, we have to be here now at all times. It's like, oh no, I love to like imagine and, grumble and all those things, just like I like to. I say, oh, I'm time traveling. I do forget what day it is. And that's dysregulation. It's not necessarily a problem, but I'll be thinking so much about Thursday that I forget that it's Tuesday. And so all of that stuff you could call dysregulation. Or what time of day is it? Like, really? Is it noon already? Like you could count everything as dysregulation. So it's a matter of degrees. But I think the sign that you're regulated enough is first that you feel willing to go on another day. Okay, there's like blessing number one. You feel willing to go on. And when you begin to start having a little agency, you start to feel like, when I feel like crap, I know what to do and it makes a difference. Now that's like some pretty good substantial healing. It doesn't mean you feel good all the time, but you know the drill. You know what to do. You have your tools. And then some days you're like, I know that I should like go outside and move my body and eat some protein, but I'm not going to. And it's like, fine, that's your agency too. You don't have to. You can just sit there and be frozen for a while. I mean, being frozen is kind of a delicious escape now and then, you know. And then after a while it gets to be tedious and makes you feel terrible. And so we move on. And so that natural impulse to get going again starts to activate before things really get out of hand. Like if any of you have ever had problems with underfunctioning, where you're missing deadlines, you're really disappointing people, you're jeopardizing your ability to support yourself financially, you're ruining relationships. Well, most of us have been there at times. That thing of like, I know what I should do, but I just can't. I just can't right now, and I can't even explain it. So, there's a word in old philosophy about this. It's called acedia, when you know the right thing, but you just lack the power to do it. And that's why in the sign off, which I borrowed from 12-step people, it says, I pray only for knowledge of what, excuse me, of your will for us, or what I should do next, and the power to carry it out. You want both. And in the secular version, what do we say? We say, I want to know my right next steps, and then I want to have the strength and clarity to do it. It's two separate things, or else none of us would ever have cavities. We know we should take care of our teeth, but there have been times, right? And so it's okay. It's okay that some days are a little bit dysregulated and others are not. And we're always just sort of working on it, and we're facing it and we're dealing with it. I don't know about you, but even knowing dysregulation is a thing, and for anybody who's new here, we do talk about dysregulation here. My book, Re-Regulated, is about it. But it turns out that our nervous system glitches a lot as a response to trauma. And if it happened when you were early, you could it's sort of like patterned in there of these glitches where it's not quite functioning properly. It's not quite helping you have your immune system at tip top. It's not quite helping you have your attention at tip top. We space out, we get clumsy, or we get emotionally dysregulated, where emotions come out way too strong and we damage relationships or make impulsive decisions. And then other times, often after a big outburst of emotion, it goes flat.
And then we're like, I don't care about you. I don't care about anybody. I don't care what happens. Well, that's not honest either, but it's like what the dysregulation, it's talking, it's doing the talking. So we're doing this practice because it does seem to help us stay more regulated and helps us come out of whatever the, dysregulation is a nervous system state. Something triggers it. The word trigger can mean many things to many people, but in this sense, we mean it's a stimulus that makes you get all dysregulated, just like, well, I've just kind of lost it. And I get that sometimes about criticism. I still can get very dysregulated over criticism. And I've chosen this ridiculous job of putting videos on YouTube as my job. And then people comment and they say really mean things. And every once in a while, it just really dysregulates me. I'm like, oh, darn it. But I read all the comments every day, believe it or not. And occasionally they're mean. And it's just so not worth getting dysregulated over. So I get a lot of practice, and it's really helped me in the rest of my life to take criticism on the front porch and listen to what I want to listen to and learn what I want and take things less personally. Whereas 30 years ago, when I was first getting started, literally, I could end up feeling like I couldn't go on in life because somebody said something that hurt my feelings. And then I try to remember, like a lot of people, perhaps even on this call, are in that place right now where if something feels offensive or hurtful to you, it feels literally threatening to your nervous system. And it's just your nervous system can overcome that, but it takes practice. And the moment we make a decision that we would rather work on that and strengthen our nervous system than continue to be really invested in the story, the helplessness, the feeling of helplessness. I'll give you an example in the YouTube comments. If I make a video about like, here's how you can set a boundary with your family, the abusive family when you go home and visit, and somebody will say, when will you just admit, that nobody should be allowed to have children? I get really triggered by that comment, honestly. Nobody should be allowed to have children. I lashed out at somebody and I said, oh, so like government orphanages, is that the plan? I said, I've already thought through, well, what would be the alternative to letting people have children? It would be like, Hunger Games. I don't know, like sometimes you just can't control everything. So anyway, I got really triggered by that. And then it ruined 10 minutes until I just have to write a few lines sometimes, get it written out, stop reacting, and stay focused and stay on my task and save my good fierce energy for when it really matters and makes a difference. And just like all I have to do I could delete a comment if I don't want it there. I don't like people saying hateful or insulting things on the channel. I don't want to have a lot of discussion. I don't want anybody else to get triggered by it. So I curate that. And then I forget, and then in real life, you can't do that. Just like, Nick, I don't like what you said. So life isn't like that. So we have the daily practice. So
Right.
that answers your question, Cindy?
Yeah, it did. I just didn't know if there was, it really did. But I didn't know if there was times like in your life when you were like in this high traumatic state that like it just kind of felt like days or years or months. And I didn't have this realization until obviously after the fact. So I just was curious if there was like, do you remember like, I know your backstory. So like when you were divorced or going through whatever, like, was that like days, months, years before you finally sort of got yourself like, to the point of awareness?
Absolutely. And so it's some of it's fuzzy, but I can tell you one time bounded thing that I know exactly how long it was. But probably the most traumatic, acute incident that ever happened to me was somebody I dated took his life and he made it so I found him. I don't want to talk about it. It triggers everybody. But that happened. And I hadn't been to a therapist in a long time because I already felt like it. I was already well on my way in the daily practice, but it was something so terrible. I went and talked about it. And I was getting worse, as I always used to in talk therapy. And I finally got online. I'm like, what do you do when this is happening? Because I had to drive past the house where I found him and all the time, to get home. And I would go into a whole adrenal overdrive thing in it. And I had stopped writing when I met this person, which kind of explains how I ended up in that situation. But for 18 months exactly, I was looping and looping and looping and looping and looping and looping. And I was so stressed and I was never present and I was crying every single day of my life. And I was alone. I pushed everybody away. I mean, when you have a stupid relationship, you have to kind of avoid people anyway. So that was my terrible alone years. And I would talk about what happened and talk about how I found him and talk about it and talk about it. And then I just looked online and it said, when you've had a traumatic experience, you probably have PTSD. I was like, right, that would be what that is. And what can you do? It was like, go exercise, go get your heart rate up for 45 minutes. And so I went and ran around this park, you know, in my sort of tired, weepy way. And then I'd walk and I ran. And I cried and then I drank some water and then I was like, ugh. Doggone it. I felt better. Like I felt so much better. And I was like, why didn't she say this? Why didn't anybody tell me this? And there's so much more knowledge now. That was 2006. Here we are, 2025. Yes, when you're freaking out and looping, go move your body. It's like really great. First line of defense. And different people have different abilities, you know, but if you can move and if you can do it outside, it's excellent. And then if you're up for other people, doing those things with other people can be great. Doing things in sync with other people can be great. And then writing about it. Writing about it would be good. Once I felt better from running, I also looked, it said, don't drink alcohol or eat sugar so much. And I've never been a big drinker, but when I drank alcohol, it's like I had to admit, I would just cry. I was terrible. I was like, oh God. I was just like, oh, it was just like all right there at the surface. And I'm like, why do I do this to myself? And so I can have a drink and not cry now because there's not this huge well of sadness underneath the surface. But whatever's under the surface will be a little stronger. But I also, the sugar, I found out like, oh yeah, eating sugar, as much as I love it, it makes it a little harder to manage my emotions and to stay present and to be regulated. This was what, in 2006, I didn't learn about dysregulation until 2014 or something. So I didn't know the word for that or for CPTSD. But anyway, nobody ever told me this. I learned it from Dr. Google and yeah,
Dr.
I just
Google.
like, what do you do? And so I was at the point the doctor was saying, I went to the doctor and I was like, I can never sleep. I'm just like, I have big circles under my eyes. And, uh, you know, I was a mother. You can't like, you got to kind of keep it together, you know, at times like this. And I was feeling really bad that I don't know, I just never had like their clothes ready on time. We were always late. I was just running ragged. She was like, we're going to have to get you on medication. And because the daily practice had in the past gotten me out of the worst depression of all time for me, I was very reluctant to alter my mind chemistry. So I was so glad, like, there's all this like non-medicine things you can do. You can do it whether you're on medicine or not, of moving, drinking water, staying away from things that elevate you, you know, like sugar and alcohol, if you can. And for people who can't, you know, I always say like, well, God bless the coping mechanisms. I used to have to smoke cigarettes to hold my act together. And then I didn't anymore. I had the daily practice for 3 years and I was able to stop. So whatever it takes for us to hold it together for now, but we continue to release these fears and resentments and we continue to start practicing, you know, common sense things that help us be stronger, more clear in our minds. When we are clear in our minds, we can start to tell the difference between something that's other people's fault and something that's our fault, which all of a sudden introduces agency, you know, because that's the part we can change. We can set boundaries. Even boundaries are they're like up there at like, you know, if there were 4 years of this, wouldn't it be nice? 4 years, you're done, you're all cured. But it was like junior in high school there, you're like setting boundaries. And then I would say in the fourth level, it's more about you start to have this graciousness. You start to be like, yeah, I don't really care if this thing triggers me. I'm slightly more interested in trying to bring harmony where I go than in defending myself against other people. You know, that's like a next stage of development that I'm very happy to be enjoying much of the time right now. Maybe not 100% of the time, but much of the time. And that's what we're doing. We're doing this daily practice so that we can be ourselves. It's not just to feel better. It's not just like a substitute for a pill that would make us feel better. It's so that we can start to function again and have a working system inside that can process information and experiences and emotions. And and it's a safety. We're safe because whatever happens, we'll know what to do. So we no longer have to try to control or avoid people so much. We can avoid people if we choose to. We can make requests for, could you please not do that around me? But we're safe now because it's like maneuverable. I can take myself out of that situation, or I can choose to go in, and I can, limit the time that I'm around something that's difficult for me, or I can avoid controversial topics when I'm around people who love to argue. So there's just things like that I can do to start having it a little easier and not be overstressing my whole system all the time, every time I go to the grocery store, which literally used to be one of my big triggers. The carts in the aisle. Why do people, like, hey, don't they realize they're blocking everyone? It just like drive me nuts. So now I just have more, I just have more peace inside, and I save my battles for the stuff that really matters. And every once in a while, something comes up where you really do have to show up and you really do have to stand up. And well, she's so far away now. You remember it used to be closer behind me, but there's that picture of Saint Dymphna. She's the patron saint of people with neurological injuries and sexual abuse. Believe it or not, those two things. She has lilies and a sword. She decides what she gives you. She gives you a big bunch of lilies, or she defends herself, and she'll fight you. She'll fight you. She won't let you hurt her. So I think she's a good patron saint for us. Yeah, she's very good. She's a real person who lived in Ireland centuries and centuries ago. She was 15 years old. So, and she was martyred. And so now she looks after all of us. So
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you. That was very generous of your time and energy. And wow, thank you for the answer. I really appreciate it a lot.
Thank you. I love these calls. We always get into a lot of depth, and we don't get to as many questions as we could, but it's, learning this involves stories and real experiences, and it's a pleasure to meet with you. We're at the top of our hour. And so, I wanted to thank all of you for showing up for this and for being willing to ask your questions on a recording for the benefit of all the people who will watch this recording. We love all of you watching the recording. Thank you for being here too.